Hello there! If you're clicking on this video, you're probably here to hear my take on Hollow Knight. This video can pretty much be summed into one singular line right now, which might not be great for viewer retention, but here it is. It's good. It's really good. You should go play it if you haven't. Of course, considering that Hollow Knight was initially released over 4 years ago, and considering that Hollow Knight has been showered in praise by many enthusiasts far and wide, it's more than likely that you and your neighbor's dog probably already knows that. Why listen to some no-name YouTuber tell you the same thing that you've heard multiple times already from far more credible sources? Well, okay, I don't have a good excuse for that one, but stick with me here. This video is, like all review videos I suppose, an opinion piece considering that review videos aren't really meant to be objective. I will, however, take the time now to warn you that there will be slight spoilers ahead, so unless you're okay with that, I highly recommend that you click off the video now to go buy the game and play it yourself. Alright, moving on. There are plenty of reasons why you should play Hollow Knight. If you enjoy games with exhilarating combat in the form of boss fights and other miscellaneous challenges, Hollow Knight's a great game for that. If you enjoy games with fluid movement that puts your platformer skills to the test, and I mean really to the test, then Hollow Knight's a great game for that too. If you enjoy games with deep lore, constant world building, and an enigmatic setting that slowly reveals itself to you through sparse dialogue and secrets spread throughout the game, you're in luck, because Hollow Knight has that too. Oh, and perhaps my favorite part of Hollow Knight, the music. The music is great and not only adds to the game, but arguably makes Hollow Knight the success that it is. I mean, just listen to it. It makes the fights intense, it conjures up emotions at the right moments, and it serves to bring you into the world of Hollow Knight. Hollow Nest. I guess Hollow Nest. Moving on to the lore. The game starts off pretty mysteriously. A strange poem, a glimpse at some orange glowing thing, and our cute main character walking on a road and jumping down a cliff to start us off into the game. Now, maybe you're a lot smarter than I am, and this intro cutscene made complete sense to you when you first watched it, but I had no idea what was going on. However, even if you're like me and can't comprehend the fragments of lore scattered throughout the world of Hollow Nest, Hollow Knight is very much a game that gives you what you make of it. You can play through the story, barely understanding it at all, until you clear the game, and inevitably end up on YouTube, watching an entire collection of videos that detail the lore of Hollow Knight. Or you can just ignore the lore of Hollow Knight entirely, and simply play through one ending, defeat the Hollow Knight, and assume that you've finished the game, and proceed to never touch it again. For me, it was the former, as I tend to have a bit of a completionist approach towards games, but as of the time of this video, I still have yet to fully experience everything in Hollow Knight. I did achieve the 112% completion, but I still have technically only experienced 2 out of the 5 possible endings in Hollow Knight. The reason why I bring all of this up in the first place is because of that point I mentioned before. Hollow Knight is a game that is what you make of it, whether you decide to fully immerse yourself in its world, ignore it all, or somewhere in between. That gives each player a unique experience with Hollow Knight, letting the player make their own decisions, which makes it that much more meaningful when you accomplish certain goals that you set for yourself, rather than goals that the game has set for you. Team Cherry never force a player to do anything. At times, they give suggestions, such as the marking of the dreamers onto the player's map, but nothing is forced, and the game flows extremely naturally towards areas that you might be interested in, whether it's for an upgrade to your knight, or another glimpse into the vast lore of Hollow Knight. But at least in my case, that's precisely what drew me in further. The way everything from the lore to the core game itself is presented, it is never shoved down your throat and enforced a certain way. The lore is mysterious and hard to fully grasp despite its plentiful presence everywhere, which makes the revisiting of certain areas much more impactful once you understand the backstory. For example, this area known as Hollow Nest Crown contains at what first seems like nothing useful to the player other than a piece of pale lore which is used to upgrade their nail. However, everything slowly begins to fall into place. That mysterious statue that held the pale lore is a statue of Radiance, the final boss of the game. It's thanks to small things like this that add to its breadth that give Hollow Knight such a fleshed out, intricate feeling. Now, that is, of course, only scratching the surface of the lore, but I encourage those who are more curious to seek out videos detailing Hollow Knight's lore, as there are many others who can give you a much better explanation than I can provide. The gameplay. For a lot of people, this is the main selling point of not only Hollow Knight, but any game they may choose to play, the actual gameplay itself. Luckily, Hollow Knight does not disappoint with its movement nor its combat, although at times painfully difficult. Both the platforming sections and the boss fights of this game are exciting, nerve-wracking, and give you the adrenaline rush before rewarding you with the goodies hidden behind the challenge. As is often common in Metroidvania titles, certain areas of Hollownest are gated off either by movement restrictions, such as requiring the Mantis Claw or the Mothwing Cloak, or by certain boss fights, such as the Watcher Knights guarding one of the three Dreamers Lurien. This inevitably leads to backtracking through areas and finding what you missed, and although I personally very much dislike backtracking in most games, I found that Hollow Knight had accomplished the feat of making backtracking quite enjoyable. Perhaps it was the joy in powering up the knight, or the goal of reaching the 112% mark. Whatever it was, it kept me going back to areas I'd previously already explored, often after I'd obtained a new power-up to see what new areas I can now access. Of course, the addition of a limited but extremely helpful fast travel system in the forms of the stagways, the trams, and later on, the Dream Gate facilitated this process. The gameplay pretty much boils down to explore area, find secrets, find bosses, fight bosses, obtain goodies, rinse, and repeat. All while trying not to die and trying to slaughter everything that comes in your nail's way. It seems simple, but there's an undeniable satisfaction that comes from conquering a difficult fight, or finally getting past that platforming section you spent hours on. And thanks to the game's incredibly nuanced level design, the repetition of these tasks almost never proves dull. There is also an improvement that occurs within the player as they progress through the game. They begin to understand how to deal with specific hostile attackers and easily maneuver the areas reinforced in them by the repeated explorations of the area. However, despite that repetition, there will most likely be things that you miss without some external guidance. For instance, I went the whole playthrough of Hollow Knight not knowing what the Relics of Hollowness Pass were for, since I never found Lem's shop until I learned of his existence through the wiki. On that note, I missed a bunch of these collectibles too. I found 11 out of 14 Wanderer's Journals, 13 out of 17 Hollowness Seals, 7 out of 8 King's Idols, and 3 out of 4 Arcane Eggs, which I have since collected all of. That isn't to say that this is a bad thing, at least in my opinion. Having content hidden away means that there's a reward for paying close attention while playing the game, and even replaying it. I do still have some gripes with the game, some minor and some less so let's talk about those before concluding this review. I know I just said that having content hidden away isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think some secrets in the game push it. For instance, this passageway leading to a White Defender fight and a King's Idol was something I found only after following the wiki. Inconsistent from the rest of the game, there is no weak ground here, but regardless of that, executing a dive here opens up a secret area where the Dung Defender sleeps. There are only a handful of other examples I can think of off the top of my head, like the Path of Pain, or Mr. Mushroom's quest that gives an additional cutscene at the end of the game. Additionally, due to the openness of the game, and most certainly due to my incredible ability to get lost all of the time, there are moments in the game where I was unsure of where to go next and what to do. Other than that, I'm not too sure what complaints I have in regards to the game. I remember at first disliking the fluid movement of the Monarch wings, since fluid movement doesn't equate to snappy movement, which would have been helpful for certain difficult moments throughout the game, but at best, that point is a nitpicky one, and not a major complaint about the game as a whole. Overall, I think my lack of complaints should tell you all you need to know about what I think about the game. It's an incredible game, and I'm sure I'll be back to play it more in the future, whether it's in the form of a Steel Soul run, or in the form of Silksong. If you've ignored my spoiler warning at the beginning, and chose to stick through the video anyway, I really do recommend that you experience the game for yourself. I went through it without having any spoilers the whole way through, and that made the game feel incredibly special once I finally cleared it. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. In the description will be a link to the playlist containing my playthrough of Hollow Knight that I streamed on YouTube. After deciding on a game, I'm planning on playing it through to the end, on stream, and making a review video like the one you just watched, so if that interests you, and you have a game you'd like for me to play, be sure to leave a comment with your suggestion. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, bye!